BitGeek podcast. I'm your host, Ron Avis, and sitting with me on the couch to my left, way over there, is my co-host,
Nick Wright.
And also with us today is our special host,
Martin Reimer.
And today we're going to be going over the top 10 Nintendo classics. Nick, Martin, the SNES Classic is going to be coming out this week. Everybody's really excited. It's the second go-around of the Nintendo Classics.
Yeah, and I never got a pre-order, so we'll see what happens.
I tried to help you. We even had the video. Did you watch the video, Nick?
I did not.
You bastard. Martin? Probably not.
No.
But yeah, the pre-order was kind of a fiasco once again. You know, you had like a matter of seconds to try and get in and smash that pre-order, or it was, whether... people are so aware of when it's going to happen, and there's different message boards and websites that like kind of clue you in, and I subscribe to all of them. But yeah, that instant it went live, I was on it, and I got one.
Part of me, too, is just stubbornness, because you shouldn't have to go to these lengths to get one.
I feel that way, too, because like, I would totally like say, like, hey, Nick, I'm going to like roll up to Target early in the morning. Do you want to come wait with me? Because they usually have 3 or 4 of them, but part of that too is like preparation. Like you gotta like know when the trucks are coming in, and there's tricks to do that. But so yeah, you didn't get a pre-order, Martin?
No, I didn't even try. Because with the NES Classic, it just everybody blew it out of the water. It was such a fiasco.
Yeah, and the SNES Classic looks even cooler than the original NES Classic.
It's got less games, but Star Fox 2. That's pretty amazing that an unreleased game, seeing the light of day now. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that really opened up a lot of eyes when you saw that list of games, and then boom, Star Fox 2. It didn't even ever get released in the States.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed that Nintendo actually listened to the fans and threw that one in there. And then I'm also impressed that they even decided to re-release the NES Classic. Because, I knew it was going to be a big hit when people that don't play games at work said, I want to buy that.
Yeah, and it looks so cool. It was priced just right,
Oh yeah.
It was just like a perfect thing. Like everybody wants one, and there was news that Nintendo's gonna re-release the NES Classic starting next year. So if you didn't get one, you'll get another shot at it.
Maybe, fingers crossed.
I'll try
another round of attempts.
I'll casually try again.
You'll casually try again.
I'll pop into stores. I'll try. If I see it, I'll buy it. But I'm not gonna go out of my way though.
Well, interestingly, the one that I actually got, the pre-order that I got, was in store. Because there were tweets going out like, go to GameStop. They're actually doing pre-orders in store. Yeah. So I tried calling you. I called your brother instead. It didn't. There was no voicemail saying his name. So I was just like, Nick, you gotta hurry up, get to a GameStop. I knew you wouldn't have got there in time anyway, but I just want to at least try.
Right.
But see, like I got in my car, I rushed over. I was working at home that day, so I, otherwise I would have never had a shot. And I live close to GameStop, so I was there. Like nearly ran over a few. Bus full of children almost. But, I got there, I was like third in line, and they had like 7, I think.
Oh,
so
wow.
even though like it was a work day, and all they did was tweet out, some people were just tweeting out, so like, it's crazy. Like you have to know the right people to be subscribed to on Twitter. I think this guy's like Wario64 or something like that. He's really good if if you're like into Nintendo news, like last second or what's the word, like cutting edge Nintendo news, I guess. He's usually on it. So yeah, he sent out the tweet. And even earlier that day, Nintendo put something up on their website saying like, these retailers are going to have it for sale today. But like, still nobody knew when. But 1 out of 3 got the pre-order. I thought it would be cool if, for those people who didn't get the NES Classic or the SNES Classic, obviously you still have a chance at getting the SNES Classic. We're going to talk about some neat alternatives to the SNES Classic, or either one. And, some of you guys might be aware of it. I know in our people that we run with in our circle are aware of it, but the Pi, the Raspberry Pi, is this little cheap, affordable computer that, you can load up all kinds of games. You know, if you got them already, these are just legal backups, y'all. But
the Pi is great. And, you know, I love, and I've got the Raspberry Pi, and I've done this, and I've been doing emulation for years. But it irritates me, though, like, all of the, like, smug people that act like, why do you even want to get an NES Classic? Just get a Raspberry Pi. You know, well, you know, I've done, like I say, I've done that stuff for years. I still want it.
yeah, we have that, but as Nintendo fanboys, we're all three huge Nintendo fans. And, like, Martin, you know, you're a guest on the show. So, like, you want to, like, tell the people, like, what Nintendo system did you not have?
I have every single Nintendo system.
Every single one?
Every single one.
Even the Virtual Boy?
I have the Virtual Boy.
Oh, my God.
I kid you not.
fan
I still
right
have
here.
the box for it.
That's
I
awesome.
remember walking into KB Toys, and it was on discount, I think for like $30-some, and I grabbed it.
I would have bought it at $30, even
Yeah.
though, like, I hated it.
Yeah,
It made my eyes
they
bleed.
couldn't give it away, but yeah, I mean, it was. I have Red Alarm, and I think the tennis game that came with it as a pack-in. But yeah, I mean, for the time, it was amazing. But yeah, definitely your eyes are bleeding after that. So
It was nifty, I admit. It was weird how you had to play it, you know, like the way it's set up on that stand.
yeah, it was not
yeah.
portable at all.
You
I
got
mean,
your
I don't
face
know.
shoved into it.
Yeah.
So, you know, you're very qualified to speak on behalf of Nintendo here.
Yeah, definitely.
But, you know, you have the Pi as well, right?
I don't have the Pi, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the Pi, but I may be looking into it after what you guys are being shown on the show.
Well, you were telling me you had the Retcon. That's one thing that you do have, where it
Yes.
actually plays actual cartridges.
Yes, yeah.
So you're still looking for ways to play your old NES games.
Yeah, I'm always looking at different ways, and I've brought something on the show today that kind of maybe fits the gap before I get the NES Classic, that kind of plays some of those older NES games.
Yeah, if you wanna scratch that itch, emulation is for sure the way to go, and it's been the way to go for years. Of course, virtual consoles a way to go too. With the Wii, you know, the virtual console, the store opened up, and people were, you know, they would release a few games here and there, kind of sporadically. Not all the games you wanted, but that's where emulation came in so handy.
Yeah.
You could play any game you want, and they're super easy to get your hands on.
Yeah.
We're not going to list any links for anything like that. We're not here to talk about that, whether emulation's good or bad. But,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's all the NES Classic and SNES Classic is. It's just run an emulator, a
Yeah.
really well done emulator.
Right.
But nevertheless, it's an emulator. But yeah, so people get these Pis, and I'm with you, Nick. I really get annoyed by it. Like, why do you want that when you could just get a Pi? To me, those are the people that can't get their hands on one.
Yeah.
So they're just kind of saying that. But so yeah, getting a Raspberry Pi is one thing, but you could take it a step further, and you can do like what I did, and get these like nifty little cases that you could put your Pi in. And this here is a case. It's called the NES Pi, and inside is the Raspberry Pi with all the emulation and the little computer board. And believe it or not, I mean, it's about the same size as the NES Classic. Looks just
Nice.
like it. You got your 4 controllers. It's got an Ethernet port to load up your games, get all
It's
the
an
configuration.
extremely well done case for the.
I don't know if you can hear this, but the power button just clicks on and off. Like it's
that's
got
authentic.
an LED.
Yeah, it even lights up. I mean,
Wow.
it feels just like when you're turning the power on for the NES. The reset button is even routed to it, and it works.
Yeah, so you know, you get yourself one of these. A Raspberry Pi runs you about what, Nick?
They're like $30, I think. Something
Really
like that.
cheap.
Wow, that's not bad.
You get a case. These cases normally retail for $24.95 or something
Yeah,
like that.
$25.
Yeah, I got mine on eBay for $44 because they're really hard to get your hands on. A lot of times when you go on, say, Amazon or wherever to get a case, they don't always look this neat. They usually look pretty cheesy, or in some cases they're just in a nondescript black box.
Yeah.
Just like a little mini computer. But with these, you really can kind of, I mean, it looks just like a Nintendo. I mean, like, there's like the little vents on top, just like the NES Classic.
They went like above and beyond the Call of Duty. It's
look
got
at
the little
this.
expansion port on the back, just like the NES had.
Wow.
That you can
Put your little micro card in there.
hide
if
your
you
little
want.
SD card in there.
That's
Yep.
impressive.
Yep, and on the side you got your little micro SD card, which is where basically the hard drive of the computer.
Easy access.
And then you take, you get yourself one of these little guys to go with it. This is a 8-bit controller. They make a line of these. This one is called the NES Pro. I think NES Pro 30.
Bluetooth controller.
Yeah, I'll put a link down in the description, but this is like $40. It's a little pricey. You don't have to get that for these. You can get like regular little USB controllers for like $5-6. Or even if you got some old wired 360 controllers, they work. But we want to go wireless. If we go to all this trouble, we want to go wireless. But this is neat too because it can also work for your Nintendo Switches.
I was really surprised that when getting this in my hands, just I saw pictures of it. I was surprised how much smaller it was than in reality. Which that's not a bad thing. Mm-hmm. It was surprising. Like the analog feels like so small than what I thought would have.
Yeah, it has a good build quality to it, but it's very light in your hand.
But it does feel good though. I like the feel of it. The buttons seem responsive.
So for around $100, I got a really sweet Nintendo case, like very authentic looking. And I don't have just Nintendo games. This thing will run Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx, Sega Genesis,
oh wow,
Sega CD. I've even got some PlayStation games on here.
It'll run Dragon's Lair arcade game.
It'll run, yeah.
Wow,
It runs MAME.
Yeah.
So anytime like we do, like BitGeek Plays, we're running like Turtles and Simpsons like right off of this thing.
I was trying to run PSP, and it seemed to be choking on Mega Man Powered Up. The audio seems real kind of jerky.
Yeah, and it'll run N64 games too, and some of the N64 games are not the greatest, but games like Mario 64 play really well.
Around that time frame is where it starts to choke a little bit.
Right, and and I'm sure they'll make more powerful, Raspberry Pis in the future, but for just like less than the cost of a game, you got a little computer that you can load up filled with games.
It's really easy to do.
Yeah.
The tutorials.
So even though like technically it is superior to the official Nintendo classics,
I still want it.
I still want it. We all still want it. And not only do we want it, we want like the imports too. Like I have a pre-order for the European SNES Classic as well.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to get that. It seems to be a little bit easier too to get the European versions on Amazon. It seems like it. They go on pre-order a little bit more often. Martin, why don't you show us what you brought?
Sure, yes.
Show and tell.
So this is the FC Pocket. And the cool thing about this is you can actually do 2-player. It's got video output. It's actually pretty light. Let's turn it on here. It's advertised as having about 500 games. It's got an additional cartridge with 100 or so there's like 400 some built in. Let me turn this down here. So you'll notice that the intro sound gets pretty annoying after probably a couple uses. But then you can quickly navigate through, and a couple of the games that are on our top 10 list are actually on this. Super Mario 3, Castlevania, which those two are probably the primary reason that I bought this. But it's got a lot of just random stuff, and I'm not sure where they even decided to grab these ROMs on here. Obviously, this is not Nintendo certified, but it can be found on Amazon. Retails for around $50, and it's not too bad. If you're kind of hanging around the house or give it to kids or so.
It is extremely light.
It's super, super light. Yeah, it's feels like it's hollow.
Yeah, mm-hmm. And probably most of the case is empty. It's basically a NES on a chip.
And there really is like no order to the games.
But for the price,
there's some order because I'm in like a bunch of G's.
I thought they were in slightly alphabetical order, but
yeah, some of them are a bit alphabetical.
There's somewhat of an order, but then there's like something else just kind of thrown in there.
Did the second controller come with it too for that price?
It did come with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great bargain.
Yeah.
We were talking like all of this for around $100, give or take, but this is like $50.
Yeah, the only downfall with this is what's on there you're stuck with. Yeah. So there's no memory card. There's no way.
Absolutely no customization.
There's no customization.
You can do a whole lot of customization with a Raspberry Pi. But you can do all kinds of neat little attract modes, just all kinds of art.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the Pi is you can customize it to your needs.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Very
just
impressive.
put whatever you want on it. Put the artwork of whatever you want on it.
Yeah, and it's, as big as I don't know the size that it supports, but I mean, I've got a 128 gig micro SD card in mine, and I bet it goes even higher. But I mean, do you really need anything more than 128 gigabytes?
Yeah.
That's what I've got.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and so I'll never, ever, 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 ever run out of games to play thanks to this little guy.
I find myself with this, I usually just bring it into bed and just before I go to sleep, just start playing like Rockman or Castlevania, or it's got the Turtles games on there. So, I mean,
How does the
it is
screen look in
nice.
the dark? Is it?
It's great.
Yeah?
It's a really good screen. I mean, it could be a little bit bigger, but
It is small, but it
yeah.
just seems small because the controller in your hand is pretty large.
Yeah, it's a pretty large brick, but it's not too bad.
Oh, I just finally realized how to play Pac-Man. It's the old style.
And explain Pac-Land right now.
There was in the arcade there. I think there were two different ways to play it, and one of them, if you hit like left or right on the direction, that was jump, and the left and right buttons made you run, and so it's like really confusing. It's backwards than what you're used to.
Yeah.
But yeah, finally figured that out.
Cool.
If you wouldn't mind handing me the box for that, there's a
Oh yeah,
couple things I want to show.
We didn't talk about I guess after you finish that, we had the
Okay.
box for the case also.
So one thing to be aware of with this, it says it comes with the English language games. They're actually all in Japanese, and the box I think is in Chinese. Let me open this up here. So it's got the manual, which you can't read. It's got a little carrying case, which I've used a couple times. Here's the Game Boy Advance look-alike cartridge, which you can't actually buy any additional cartridges. So I'm not sure.
And that's not going to play actual cartridges either, right, Martin?
No, it's just for this one expansion. It's got video out, which isn't the best. It's got a lot of bleeding when you hook it up, and then it's got the power adapter with it too. And then, like we said, it also comes with the additional Famicom controller. And we did try it earlier, and it plays pretty well. Wouldn't you agree, Nick?
I was having issue trying to get the simultaneous buttons, like when we're playing Ninja Turtle arcade game and you have to hit jump and attack at the same time.
Yeah.
I was having issue trying to get that to work, but aside from that, I mean, it's good.
Yeah, Nick,
Yeah.
show the box that this little case came in.
Yeah, the box for the case, it's like it's a little Nintendo box. I mean, it's so cool.
Yeah, I'm not going to get rid of that at all.
Yeah,
a lot of times, like, I'll want to check the box or,
Yeah.
this is like a collector's item within itself.
And
Almost.
when I was saying they went above and beyond the Call of Duty, they also gave you a screwdriver with this thing.
They really
wow.
did.
It's just
That's
a Phillips
great.
screwdriver.
Yeah,
But-
so you can put your pie in it.
Yeah, just in case you don't have a screwdriver lying around the house. I mean, because it wasn't anything special, like a
No,
star
no.
bid or anything.
But it's just a neat little
just
touches.
a tiny Phillips screwdriver.
$25
Yeah.
for all that.
That's smart.
I
Like I
couldn't
said,
believe it.
I overpaid a little bit, but I didn't feel like $44 was bad
When-
either.
when
I was
mine-
totally fine with that.
Yeah, when mine came in the mail, I was just blown away at how good the quality was. And
Yeah, because I showed pictures, but you can't really tell the quality from a picture.
it's like, it looks great, but then you get it in your hands and you're like, it's amazing.
It is. it's totally great. I mean, I recommend anybody that wants to, put a little pie system together, go ahead and spend the extra $25 and get one.
I highly recommend that.
Yeah, and I'll try and put a couple of links down there. I mean, you can find it on eBay. I think it's Retro Flag is, if you were to just put Nest Pie in Amazon, it may come back with this like little chintzy $20 one. So you got to be careful you actually get the right one. But the website that I sent you, and I'm sure probably 20 or 30 minutes later it was probably sold out. But I'll put a link up. Maybe it'll refresh every now and then. Who knows? Maybe he'll have some.
I'm definitely gonna go get one now.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our like little alternatives to the SNES and the SNES and the NES, or the NES and the SNES. Have you guys ever heard anybody call it the SNES before? Like, I'm hearing a lot of that lately.
I don't know where that comes from. But
it's
so
like,
weird.
It's like a millennial thing.
I think so. I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah.
I've never.
It's always been
that
Super
way.
Nintendo or SNES, but they got to go SNES.
They got to be different, right?
They got to be different,
You know?
I suppose. All right, so the real purpose that we're here for this episode is we're going to do our first ever definitive list. A countdown from 10 to 1. We're not going to cheat with shout-outs. We're not going to, throw in... These are just our favorites. These are the top 10, in our opinion, best games for Nintendo Classic systems. So it has to be either on the SNES or the NES Classic. So there's going to be games on there that maybe might go on there. And for fun, we're each going to pick a game that we would have liked to have seen on there. And we'll take a game off.
Yeah, replace a game that we maybe didn't care about so much for a game that we wish was on the NES or Super NES Classic.
Right, but overall, Nintendo did a fantastic job of picking the best games to go on these systems. And so, we actually have a scientific method to getting our list down. Nick, why don't you explain how we are going to take 3 people's 10s and create an overall 10?
Okay, so like you said, we picked our top 10 from both systems that appeared on the classic console. So it's not like every Nintendo game, every Super Nintendo game. Right. It's just what appears on either the NES Classic or the Super NES Classic, and the top 10 combined of those. And so basically we gave it like a score of, if it was first place, then it scored 10. If
10
it was
points.
second place, it scored 9. So it kind of went in reverse order like that. And added up the scores and, just got ranked them from there, from whatever that their score was. Cool. So how do you want to do this? Start in reverse order?
Yeah, we'll start with 10. And I guess we'll just do the actual list.
Because of the way things scored.
The total list?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we'll just do the total list for sake of time.
Because of the way things scored, then there was actually 2 of them that we had made our list, and so I think we should probably mention these, even though they ranked 11, because there was a lot of ties. So there was 2 that tied in 11th place.
Do you want to
Also, we
start
have
with
more
those?
than 10 games because there are some ties in the 10.
Yeah.
So there'll be more than 10
yeah,
games.
because maybe Martin picked a game that I didn't pick.
Right.
So
Right.
so that's why that happened. And I tried to make sure it ended up not even really being an issue, but I tried to make sure that to allow bonus points for titles that each of us, if it was it matched on our list, because say all 3 of us picked a game, but it ranked low in the list, and so it would score 3 points. If it was 10th place on every one of our lists,
points, right.
then it would only get 3 points. But then say one of us picked another game that ranked pretty high, and it would get 8 points, 9 points, whatever.
So there's a little bit of nuance to the list too.
I didn't think that would be fair for a game that only one person picked, because obviously if we didn't pick it, then it wouldn't have got these points.
No, that's true.
So...
No, that's fair. So you award bonus points for some.
Well, I did the formula that way, but ended up that the titles we picked, it didn't even matter. It didn't even skew things at all. So Ninja Gaiden, I don't know how we want to pronounce it, and Metroid, both on the NES, tied with 1 point, because one person, I think, picked each.
Yeah.
I think Martin picked Metroid and you picked Ninja Gaiden.
I picked Ninja Gaiden, yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm
they tied at 11th place.
I'm kind of surprised that no one else picked Metroid. I mean,
Well,
that's pretty classic on the NES.
It is
guys.
very classic.
Especially Spawn, Super Metroid.
Well, Super Metroid made my list,
Yeah.
I think, fairly... Well, no, not even fairly high, really, but...
Yeah, you're gonna have to answer. Obviously, for some of us, are gonna have to answer. I didn't pick either Metroid game on my list.
Whoa, I mean, what's
know.
going on here?
I really, really like Metroid games.
You
I'll
played
be
them though
honest.
back in the day, right?
Not a lot.
Not a lot,
And that's
okay.
why I wanted to be authentic with my list. If I didn't have Super Metroid or Metroid, then I didn't feel like they deserved to be
and that's
on my
exactly what I was going to say, why Super Metroid made my list, but Metroid did not, because Super Metroid is really what got me interested in the series. I didn't really ever play Metroid.
Yeah, and I
really?
played Super Metroid.
Super Metroid was like my first one, and then I went back to it because I'm like, hey, this is really cool. Let's see how it started. And so I'd gone back and I beat the original Metroid, but I didn't really play it at the time. So
I played it back then when it came out. So.
And I
that's
know
when
it's just
saw
not
it.
me too, because as far as sales go, like Metroid games traditionally don't really sell like a lot of other games on our list. You know, like they get the accolades, but they don't sell a whole lot, and I don't know why. They're really, really good games. I think like I was turned off by Metroid right off the bat because it felt kind of hard.
It is hard. It is a hard game.
Yeah, and I didn't go left right away to get the morph ball. So like when you go to the right, I think I played a demo of it at Sears or something, and I went to the right because that's what you normally do. And like almost instantly, I got stuck, and I was like, "Screw this! I'm playing something else."
Yeah,
and that must have stuck in my craw for a little while.
I think that's one of the first games where there's a lot of backtracking to areas that you've already been to.
Yeah, you couldn't even backtrack in the original Super Mario Brothers game.
Yeah,
wouldn't even let you.
Right.
So it's a great game. Super Metroid I've found a little bit later. I did not get it when it came out for Super Nintendo, but I've since played it on emulation. And
well,
stuff.
but we'll talk about that one later because it's on the list.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Sorry.
We'll get to that.
Well, but like I felt like I had to defend myself with it right off the bat. But yeah, so nobody else thought Ninja Gaiden was
to be honest, I never really played it back in the day.
Oh,
I
God.
played it
Well,
on emulation.
And
Yeah.
and for me, I like the arcade game and I like the Nintendo game, but I remember too first playing the Nintendo game like, well, this is totally different. This isn't the arcade game, and it's really hard. Now, I mean, I agree. I mean, I love.
It doesn't start out that hard. It gets really hard later.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's really famous for having those cheap ass hits, like when you try to jump like an area.
Yeah, like a bird will hit
A
you.
bird will
Yeah.
come down. And also, it's one of those annoying games too.
Typical
where-
NES game, though.
Typical
you know?
NES game. You can't just fault, Ninja Gaiden for it. They were all kind of guilty of that, but it was really frustrating when you'd get by a bird and you go back and then that enemy would respawn, like that you just
Oh, I
spent
hate
all this
that.
time trying to kill.
Yeah.
But it was really frustrating because you'd spend all that time to kill an enemy and then you'd get bounced back and it would just reappear again and again and again. I think Mega Man does
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was
Oh,
gonna say.
yeah.
It's like the Mega Man thing where you
Yeah.
like if you backtrack just a pixel too much, and then
Yeah.
that guy reappears.
Yeah, and so that it makes it hard because of those like little things. But
Yeah.
I'm with you, Nick. I loved the arcade, and back in the day, and I think we've touched on this many times in the past in other episodes. You couldn't just jump online and see all the screenshots and videos of the game. That you had no idea really what the game was going to be until it was out.
Yeah.
And I remember going to the video store, and I'm like, I want to rent this. This is going to be awesome. Looked at the back of the box, absolutely nothing like the arcade game, which blew my mind. It's made by the same people, but they did something smart. Like they were like, well, we have limitations. We can't actually do the arcade, so we'll just do this really interesting game. And they took the main character's name and they made him a ninja. And that's about it. I mean, everything else is completely unique, but it's fun. It's really cool. I like.
It is a fun game.
Ninja
yeah.
Gaiden was all about the reboots before movies started forever doing it.
Yeah.
Because then on Xbox there was Ninja Gaiden, and so there's like these 3 different games, totally different games.
Yeah.
They all have the exact same name.
That's true.
They couldn't even like give it some
themselves.
kind of like subtitle or something. It's
Yep.
just like Ninja Gaiden. That's the name.
Yeah, and Shinobi is kind of like that too. Like Shinobi will reinvent themselves and on other systems, but
Oh yeah.
but yeah, the Ninja Gaiden games had 2 sequels, 3 total games, and they're all very highly regarded.
But yeah, I
really
totally
well-reviewed.
admit that they are true classics. But for a top 10 list, including NES and Super NES, it just didn't make my cut.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, so that's our number, Todd, for 11.
Yeah, tied
Okay.
for 11. So,
All right.
okay, so then 10th place, there was one title, 10th place, Super Castlevania 4 on the Super Nintendo.
I love that game so much.
And that got 2 points.
Well, I clearly went to bat for that game, maybe more. I think it's a bit higher on my. No, it's not that
It
high.
it didn't. I mean, it's a great game, but it didn't make my list.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
didn't get the cut for me either.
That game
Sorry.
impressed me so much, and it was when we did our SNES 5, we did our 5 favorites each. It made my list.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's going to make my top 10, and I was super excited to see they included it on the SNES Classic. The sound in that game is phenomenal. Some
Yeah,
of the best music in any SNES
That's
game.
really another one too that kind of got me, I think, more interested in kind of. Well, no, I think Castlevania Symphony of the Night really got me into
That would
that-
make a
that's a
fan
great
out of
one,
anybody
yeah.
that wasn't a
I mean,
fan
because
of the
I
original
did like
Castlevania.
I played the original. I played 2 like once when I was like at somebody's house and I didn't know like what I was doing and I
Yeah,
didn't
Simon's
have a clue.
Quest.
Yeah, I didn't have a clue about
That
it.
one's definitely very different. Right?
It's the Zelda 2 of the group, I think.
Right.
I
A little
rented
bit.
3 one time and I liked it. You know, I enjoyed it.
3 was quite good.
Yeah, I like
4.
3 a lot.
I think 4 I played at like Danny Bridges' house or something.
Yeah, maybe.
and but I was impressed. It was very, very cool.
Yeah.
But then when Symphony of the Night came out on the PlayStation, now I'm in love with the Castlevania series.
Yeah.
Here we go. Just going down on Symphony of the Night once again on our show. It's a great game,
Well,
no
I mean,
doubt about it.
visually, I think Symphony of the Night. Obviously, the system it was on, it was obviously higher fidelity. But I mean, personally, the Super Nintendo Castlevania version, something about the graphics, it doesn't appeal to me. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
I really like the large sprites in the game. I like the whip, the way it could kind of
I-
dangle and go.
I just thought
The different angles.
just the title screen, it had like those bugs like crawling across it, and it
So
just
cinematic.
it had that that atmosphere. I was just really impressed. And then you play the game, and for the first time you can like hold the button and like whip around
Mhm.
in any direction, and
Yeah.
I just thought it was really cool.
I think the reason why we love Symphony of the Night so much is it just kind of returned back to like a 16-bit style, but like with just beautiful hand-drawn graphics. And,
Yeah.
you know, Castlevania kind of stumbled into 3D world territory for a couple of years there, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
It was the
As
worst.
most franchises did
Yeah.
in that Nintendo
Yeah.
64 era. But you know, like I think the Castlevania 4 deserves to be in the top 10. I'm very happy it's in there, thanks to me mostly.
All right, so tying at number 9th is Super Mario Brothers 2 on the NES and Excite Bike on the NES, both 3 points. And I don't think either one of those made my list. Super Mario 2 didn't make my list.
It didn't make my list either.
It
Martin,
made
you're
my
the only
list.
one.
I love that game. It's so quirky.
You know,
I mean, Super Mario USA in Japan.
yeah.
I think just the history behind it, that they modified an existing game. With
I think that's why I don't
Donkey
judge.
Panic.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
another game retrofitted.
You
to be
know,
a Mario
there
game.
would have been a time that I think I would have said that's my favorite Mario game. But now it's just that quirky one that I look back on fondly. But if I think like number 1, you know, that it falls to the wayside.
When I think of Mario 2, I have 2 really good things to say for it, maybe even 3. One, I think it introduced like a more 3D, like cartoony element to the Mario universe. 2, I like the music in the game. I thought it was
Yeah.
real upbeat and kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
And 3, that Nintendo Power issue where they had to
That's
play
my-
Mario.
yeah, that's my
Oh,
favorite
man.
issue.
That is a great issue,
Yeah.
and it's because of Mario 2.
Yeah.
But as you said, the actual Mario is Japanese exclusive because Americans were too, you know, inept at video gaming, I
Yeah,
guess.
it was
so
considered
hard.
too difficult, right?
Yeah.
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 Which I think was a mistake on their
The
part.
poison
Oh, yeah.
mushrooms and
we can handle it. None of the characteristics of that game has been carried over by Nintendo. It seems like turnips and pulling stuff out of the ground and
Well,
Birdie. None of those enemies.
they have kept a lot of that though. I mean, Shy Guys have been in the Yoshi games.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Birdo has been in like the sports games like tennis and whatnot.
I guess you're right.
So they have adopted some of them. Bob-ombs have been a staple ever since Mario.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
do love the bombs.
Yeah.
That stage with the mouse or whatever with
Wart.
the sunglasses.
But
Oh,
Wart,
Bowser.
we haven't
Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
we haven't seen Wart like I don't think really since.
No.
I mean, he's had like that guest appearance like in like the Game Boy Zelda titles, but no,
Yeah.
come on.
It doesn't count.
Yeah.
Well, I think one thing that's really interesting too is the multiple player select. So you got Toad and Princess
Yeah.
and Luigi and Mario, and they have different
They all have different
abilities, right?
attributes.
That was That was a Super Mario 2 exclusive thing,
Right.
too. Yeah, that's when they started to adopt different abilities.
Yeah.
So Princess Peach floats around now everywhere in a lot of
Which,
the games.
Right.
to be fair though, was the original Doki Doki Panic had that in it, and they were just like, well, let's just make this person the princess and this person Luigi.
Yeah. Well, then we owe a lot to Doki Doki Panic.
But yeah, absolutely.
Because if you think about later games, you can play as Toad and Princess, and I wonder if
They've
that's
kept
due
that.
to Super Mario 2.
Well, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
They've kept that in. That like I think there's another game where Peach floated across. Well, Smash Brothers. Smash Brothers does that, and that's because of Mario 2.
Yeah.
Well, can we talk about Excitebike a little bit? I mean,
Yeah,
neither one of you.
definitely.
I mean, that's
Yeah,
a great,
yeah.
great game. That game is so tight and technically sound. It is a lot of fun to play even today.
Yeah, it's a great game.
Started as an arcade game. It was one of Nintendo's few arcades. I mean, once the NES came out, they stopped making them. So, I remember playing that in the arcades, and then when you get it on the NES, it felt so perfect.
Never really played it in the arcades at all.
Really? Yeah, I remember seeing it in a couple different places.
Yeah,
But I mean, that game is a great, great, great game. I love it a lot. I'm glad to see that it pops up in Virtual Console. It's one of those games I buy every time on Virtual Console.
Oh, yeah.
I like the catchy music on the title screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a very simple game. There's not a whole lot to it. You just got the gas, and there's one goes faster, and if you're on it too long and you overheat, so you kind of have to be selective on where you boost.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes it so great. There's not a lot to it, but it's a game you can get very good at. But at the same time, you can really bite it and crash continuously.
Oh,
and
yeah.
not be very good
Yeah.
at it at all. So Excitebike made my list. Super Mario 2. I'm with you, Nick. I remember the instruction manual being very fat and good.
yeah.
Is that the instruction manual that we came together on?
Yeah, that's
was
the one
another
I
great
borrowed
thing
from
about
you
Super
so I could draw the characters
Yeah,
and
so
stuff. Yeah.
because of this Mario Brothers 2, we kind of became friends.
See, it should have showed on your list, guys.
Out of
Come on,
it.
I'm really surprised
I
now.
will say that Mario 2, I think, is the most rented Nintendo game for me. I think I've rented that game the most out of any other game.
Yeah.
And beat it countless times.
I'm not upset it's on the collection or anything. I think it's a good game. It just didn't make my list.
Yeah.
Because there's so many other better Mario games, I think.
Well, and I think really it didn't make my list because I have pretty much every Mario game on my list. So I kind of felt like I can't just list
I don't want
every
half
Mario
of my list
game
to be all Mario.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, thanks to Martin, it's repping, and it came in there. Was it 9? Is it 9? It's tied for 9 with the
Yeah.
Excitebike?
Yeah, ninth place.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I will say too,
points.
with Mario 2, that it's got the coins with the casino slot machine,
Oh yeah.
which is pretty unique.
Yeah.
And then it's also got the alternate world.
The Shadow World,
The Shadow World.
Subspace.
Yeah,
The
which
Stranger Things.
which I don't think any other Mario game has anything like that.
No.
Oh,
So that's really unique
Yeah.
for that too. So.
And they took the POW block too from the old the Mario arcade
Yeah.
game.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
So that was kind of a big deal in
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
And there were some really thrilling levels too, like the one board where you have to grab the key and go down, keep going down while that one guy
the
chases after
Phanto.
you.
Yeah, the Phantos.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah,
man, he
yeah.
aggravated me so much.
Yeah.
You'd throw the key
Yeah, you'd have to
down,
throw
wait
the
for him
key.
to go away and
Yeah,
pick it up.
Yeah.
So it's at its core, it's not a Mario game, but they made it. The charm of Mario made it a great game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to look back at Doki Doki Panic again because I feel like those turtle shells and the POW block were both in that game,
Really?
even though they're Mario things.
You guys remember the first time you found out about that too? Like that it
Yeah,
was
I was-
Doki Doki
it-
Panic?
I was
It
pretty
blew my
shocked.
mind.
Yeah.
It did me too.
Yeah.
And it was a couple
I thought
years
it was
afterwards.
a hoax, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, because magazines would play those tricks on you from time to time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one
like-
of the
yeah.
most fascinating things about game, I guess, history facts.
Uh-huh.
That it just blew my mind at the time.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to number 8, shall we?
All right, number 8, there was a tie, 4
tie.
points each. Mega Man X for the Super NES and Super Ghouls and Ghosts for the Super NES.
So neither one of these games are on my list, guys.
Mega Man X was definitely on my list.
And then Super Ghouls and Ghosts was on mine.
Yeah. So
Well, let's talk about Super Ghouls and Ghosts first, shall we? Awesome game. Really freaking
super
hard.
hard.
Very hard.
I didn't really ever play it all that terribly much, to be honest. So
I played it a lot on the NES. So
Yeah, I did too. I was a big NES fan. I didn't play it that much in the arcades though.
Just a few times myself.
Yeah, just a bit. Maybe at Pizza Hut here and there, but that was about it.
Oh heck yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so is it just basically the same game as the NES version, just with much better graphics, better sound?
It's actually a sequel.
It is a sequel?
Yeah, it is a sequel, yeah.
Okay. Not sure I haven't played it then. Maybe I just assumed all along it was
Yeah,
just
it's
basically the same
very,
game.
very similar. But yeah, I believe it's a sequel.
It looks great.
Yeah,
it's a really
it's
beautiful
amazing.
game.
And then the special effects when the ground goes up.
Mhm.
I mean, that's for the Super Nintendo. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Nick, you want to talk about Mega Man X?
Mega Man X, man. It's an excellent game. I mean,
The X stands for excellence.
one of the first games, I think, to start the confusion of is it X or is it 10? You know?
Yeah, we got the iPhone X now. Oh, it's 10.
Mega Man games haven't gone up to 10 at that point. I think
Right.
it left off at 6, I think, at
6
that
was
time.
the last NES game.
And so it's like, well, why would they jump it straight to 10? Well, it's X. It's
And was
Mega Man
6
X.
even out
Yeah.
by that time?
And it was X because it's gone into the future.
Yeah.
I see.
But yeah, 6 I think. Well, I think 6 was out. 7 was not because 7 was on the Super Nintendo, but 6 was the last one on Nintendo.
The big thing I remember right off the bat with it was just how big Mega Man was and how beautiful the. I mean, it was a new
huge.
system. It was
Yeah.
a Super Nintendo, so obviously you get that
I mean,
jump in fidelity.
the
on
first
graphics.
board alone, you know, it's like my favorite board.
Yeah.
Just that you're running along that highway and the music and everything. That it starts the game off right.
Yeah.
And it was really cool too that there was those secrets in it, like you could do the fireball from Street Fighter if you met all the conditions. And I don't know, just X is really good Mega Man game.
I can't disagree with you there. It didn't make my list, but I mean, again, I'll say it again and again. All of these games are really good games. It's hard to do these kinds of lists.
Yeah.
Because
very
I mean,
hard.
I think a lot of the games are going to end up being in both our lists, but here at the tail end of the list, we see a little bit of differences, I think.
Yeah.
So, Martin, did you have Mega Man X?
I did not, but it was definitely a good game. I
Yeah.
played it back in the day, and
I'm actually
enjoyed it.
looking forward to playing it on the SNES Classic when it comes out. It's one of those games that I think I'll probably take advantage of, especially with those SNES Classics. They got that rewind mechanic and stuff, to make.
Oh wow, I didn't hear that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to make games a little more, I think, palatable for.
Like if you screw up, just hit a button.
Yeah,
and
I'm
Oh,
pretty
wow.
sure that it does. If I'm not mistaken.
that's
I
cool.
believe I saw that somewhere. So,
Wow, that's cool.
And with save states, I mean, it had save states, I guess, in the original Mega Man X. But
And I'll be honest that there was a password system in X.
oh god, I hated those.
Yeah,
Wow.
password system. But I'll be honest though that I didn't really play the other X games as much. Like when 2 came out, I bought 2.
Were there 3 X games?
There's way more than that.
Oh, there were,
It
okay.
continued on to the PlayStation days. I mean,
okay.
it
But
went,
some of those are a little questionable, right?
it went up to like X6.
Yeah, we talked about that. How PlayStation really adopted, like Capcom was like a really big deal on the PlayStation at first.
But I didn't really follow it terribly much after the original X. So I don't know if that's just, me growing up and just getting into other things. I don't know.
Well, we played 6 Mega Man games and then X, and
Yeah.
and that formula is still fun to play, but maybe you were just Mega Man fatigued at that point.
Yeah.
Other games were out.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because like I say, I got 2, but I didn't play X2 like nearly as much.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even get the other ones. I don't think.
Well, and then they tried to go into like it's a 2D view, but then 3D,
Yeah.
and it got a little questionable at that point. I think people dropped off
Capcom
at that
stumbled
point.
onto hard times there.
Yeah.
They have yet to really pull
Like
out of it all.
I know I
Yeah.
got some of those PlayStation ones, but I didn't really play them as much.
Yeah.
Cool.
So for whatever reason. So anyway.
All right, so where does that lead us now?
So.
Number 6, is that where we are?
Number 7.
7th place.
7th place.
7th place with 8 points. Castlevania on the NES.
The original
Castlevania.
The original Castlevania.
A true classic.
Not on my list.
Well, and yeah, I already kind of mentioned that.
Yeah.
I did play it, but not really all that.
So it wasn't
terribly
on your
much.
list either?
No, not the
Okay.
original.
But you thought really, really high of Castlevania.
I did.
It's pretty high on your
I mean,
list,
it was
if I
a
recall correctly.
platformer, and then the theme around it. I mean, it was very unique for the day. And then
Well, I mean, monsters. I mean,
monsters. I mean, zombies and everything there, and vampires. I mean, what's there not to love about that? And it's just whipping is fun. So it's just,
Talk to your wife. You do a little bit of Simon Belmont
Whipping
roleplay in the
that,
bedroom. I can't speak to, unfortunately, Castlevania a whole lot, but that's another game that I'll like get into, like load it up on the Raspberry. I mean, I already have it on there, but with Castlevania
the
4,
music.
Well,
the music
that-
alone and
I
the
was just
intro
gonna
and the
mention
very
music.
beginning. It's just if you've never played it, just play the first level at
Oh
least.
yeah, it's great. And well, because I don't
Isn't
know.
the first level similar to the Castlevania 4 first level?
I think it's very similar.
Yeah.
I think.
Yep.
Yeah. It's almost. I think it's like a remake, really.
It is cool. Do you guys remember those like VHS tapes where it was like gaming with pros or whatever, and they would
Oh, like
have-
the tips and secrets.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I remember Castlevania being on one of those early cassettes, and I watched. I had one of them, and it was on there, and I thought it looked really cool. I just never got around to buying it. I just didn't have a whole lot of money. and-
I've got like one of those Street Fighter like VHS tapes of like telling you how to do combos.
You really? Nice.
I'll dig it up.
Nick Wright bought a videotape on how to do combos? Jeez.
No, but when we're talking about the Castlevania music, I don't know if any of you all have you gone to Video Games Live, like when it was in town.
No, I missed that.
Tommy
I
Tallarico.
heard about that.
Yeah, well, I've been to two, and I forget which one it was, but one of them at the end of it, there was like, they were like, here's an oldie but a goodie, and they started out with the Castlevania
Oh, nice.
thing, and that was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Like hearing them like with the electric guitars and just everything playing
Awesome.
Castlevania, like rocking out to Castlevania. That was
Yeah.
great.
I really wish Konami could get things going again with some of those classic titles. All they ever really do anymore are like Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah.
They could be doing so much more.
Yeah.
There's so many great games.
Yeah.
And the NES and the SNES had, particularly the NES, some really great Konami games.
I wish they could do, what Capcom did with revisiting Mega Man and going 2D retro with it. Do that with Castlevania. I think people would just eat that up in a heartbeat.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's one of those. We've gotten Metroid games, the new Metro games are finally coming out, but for years and years people were like, we gotta have Metroid, and I think Castlevania is like the next game that I think people are really clamoring for, because for a little while there we got new Castlevania games like almost every year.
Yeah.
We
And
did
then they
have,
just stopped.
And there's a 3DS version. I haven't played it though. But they kind of went 2D view, but 3D again. So
we do have the spiritual successor coming out from, it's not Castlevania, but it's from Bloodstained.
Bloodstained.
Oh, yeah.
It does look cool.
yeah.
From I forget his name now.
Yeah, that's a
but
Kickstarter.
whoever
right there, and is that going to be ported to the Switch? You think?
I think it is. Yeah. I heard that it was supposed to come out for the Wii U, and then they decided
Oh
to.
yeah. That was
change
one
it
of their
over to the
stretch goals, right?
It was a stretch goal, and then they switched it over to the Switch.
Ah.
Kind of upset everybody on the Wii U because they were looking forward to that. Probably
Everybody
one of
bought
the
a Wii U,
last
bought a
games.
Switch though.
Well,
let's be honest.
Yeah, I did.
They're not playing their Wii U's anymore. So,
No.
Everybody wants to play those games. Everybody wants to play everything on the Switch now. Like anytime anything comes out on 3DS, you're like Switch.
Yeah.
Like when Samus Returns came out, I was like, where is it on Switch?
I was actually thinking that today. I was like, just bring it out on the Switch.
Yeah. I don't know why they don't.
Yeah.
Maybe they will down the road. Who knows? In some special definitive edition. All right, so Castlevania, it gobbled up this number 8 spot all on its own.
no, number 7 spot.
Number 7 spot,
8
sorry.
points, number 7.
8 points, number 7. All right, so where are
So
we at number 6?
tying at number 6 with 9 points was Super Metroid for the Super NES and Street
one.
Fighter 2 Turbo Hyper Fighting on the Super NES.
I'm surprised that didn't go a little bit higher. Frankly, the Street Fighter, because that was like such a huge game for Nintendo.
Yeah.
It almost made my list. I mean, I loved that game when it came out.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. You go to the arcades, and then you've got it at home now. I mean,
Very,
it looked,
very similar.
to
port.
me, I mean, it looks almost exactly the same.
And I'm all about Street Fighter, but such
this
a
is
list.
a Nintendo list.
Such a
yeah.
list,
Yeah.
it ranked low. It was 9th on my list.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's why. So that's only 2 points right there for me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it
But
didn't,
as far as Super Metroid goes, I didn't, again, like we said earlier, I kind of let the cat out of the bag. It's not on my top 10 at all. And a lot of people, for them, it's their number 1 game. So, you know, you guys had it up on your list.
Yeah, Super Metroid for me was 8th place.
Yeah, it was 5th for me.
Cool.
So,
kind of really got the ball on moving for the Metroidvanias.
oh, definitely.
I think everybody credits that particular Metroid game for, you know, the craze of Metroidvanias, which are really hot right now. I don't know how many times like I'll see a game like an indie type game and they go, it's like a Metroidvania game with this and that. But you know, I know you've talked about Super Metroid in the past. It was one of your 5 we did for our list, our 5 favorites. About how cool it was when it started up.
Man,
kind of grabbed your attention.
That mini boss that you back him up, like you keep shooting missiles like into his mouth, but you can't do any damage to him. You just keep backing him up, and he finally like falls off the cliff like into the lava. And then like later on, you meet up with him again, like he's a skeleton that just kind of like busts through a wall, and then he just kind of follows over.
Yeah.
I mean, those are like really cool.
Yeah.
I really like in that game too. Like you have to escape at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Like because you know it's gonna explode.
That's like classic Metroid stuff right there.
Yeah. So that's really neat. I don't know. Is there really anything else we can really say about Super Metroid? Martin, you're our guest. So
I've kind of already said it. You know.
What about you, Martin? What do you remember most about Super Metroid?
You know, honestly, I mean, just the atmosphere in that game, especially in the beginning. You know, you're in the lab, the sound. You know, it just pulls you in, right?
And here in the Super Nintendo, you know, with the intro and it was talking. You know, that was just amazing back in the day. The Super Nintendo was like the last Metroid is in captivity.
Yeah, it didn't sound like a Sega Genesis, like, you know,
welcome to your grave, like,
welcome to your doom. It didn't sound chippy.
Wise from your grave.
Wise from your grave. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, it was like so clear, and it was just, it was really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, definitely the visuals. I mean, going from obviously the Nintendo on Metroid to then the Super Nintendo. I mean, it's just amazing visuals. And
holds up very well to this
day.
Very
well to this day.
And the sprite for Samus turning left and right was different because I forget like if she's left or right-handed right now, but you know she's like holding like her cannon like on one hand. When she turns around, it's still that way.
Nice,
I don't know if you ever noticed that.
No, that's a neat little attention to detail
definitely
right there.
nice.
Yeah, it's a different sprite turning around.
Cool. All right. So what's next on our list?
Okay. So 5th place, 10 points. The Legend of Zelda.
The original.
The original The Legend of Zelda.
Yep.
Yeah. Does any game give you the nostalgic feels more than that gold cartridge?
I love the original
yeah.
Legend of Zelda. It's. I have a hard time trying to decide between it and A Link to the Past, like which is my favorite. Because A Link to the Past, technically, you know, is the far superior game.
Yeah. And it made my cut, right?
Yeah.
The NES version didn't.
Oh, okay.
Because I actually didn't play a lot of that.
Oh, yeah?
The NES version, no.
Oh, man, that second quest, so classic. You know, like beating the first game.
And then everything's kind of rearranged.
Yeah, that was a major like eye-opener. Like, wow, this game's so deep, so vast into the exploration. It was really the first time that you had a game so big. You know.
I just remember first playing it at Sears, not having a clue like what you're supposed to do. It's kind of like you when you were explaining.
Metroid,
was it Metroid?
Yeah.
And just not really having any idea, and just kind of you just wander around, you're stuck. That's how it was when I was trying to play Zelda on that little 5-minute timer, you know, at Sears. And so then one time I rented the game, and when you rented it, you got the instruction manual and the map, because it came with everything.
Yeah, I like how that. What was the game? Was it Binding of Isaac? That kind of.
Oh yes.
Yeah, Binding of Isaac.
So that's how iconic that
kind of replicated that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I mean you're absolutely right. Yeah, because it's so iconic that they made it so much like the original Legend of Zelda book and map and everything.
It told you so much of the story. You know.
Yeah. And like the map that they gave you though was like just a small portion of it, and then there were like these empty grids, so you can see like how vast, how big it was. and kind of encouraged you to kind of like fill those in yourself. And
I forgot about
that. That's
those
one of the
maps.
first things I think that started me, because I used to like Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario 2. I would sit there with graph paper and like pause the game, like move a little bit, pause.
Oh, yeah,
move
that's
a little,
cool.
pause, move a little,
Nice.
pause,
That's awesome.
and I would map out like every single
Yeah.
board. And I like jump, like in Mario. Cause
I never did that,
Jump
but I wish
straight
I
up
thought of
and
that. I would have done it.
Looking for like, is there a hidden block right here? No,
Yeah.
move on. Hidden block here? No, move on. But yeah, and like Zelda, you do the same thing. You like bomb here? No. Bomb here? No. Burn the bush? No. Move on.
I remember you did that really excellent Minecraft recreation of the Zelda
Yeah.
map.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
That took a
Did
long
a great
time.
job. Yeah.
Thank you.
You have to be really inspired by a game to do
That's
something
fun.
like that.
Yeah, I enjoyed
You
doing
guys
that.
should add that on one of your episodes.
Do you
A
have like
walkthrough.
any like screenshots of that or anything?
I'll have to look. If I booted up my Xbox 360, I think the file's still there.
It was really cool.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of other neat stuff too, like the
I think I
Firehouse.
could probably find. Yeah, that was fun.
The Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Minecraft, what a great game. But yeah, the Legend of Zelda. I mean,
Yeah, classic. I love.
I
it.
remember that commercial. Do you guys remember how silly that commercial was?
Oh yeah.
That was like my introduction into it. Like I don't think I had that like Sears moment where I was actually playing it. Like I saw
Yeah.
the commercial. Like what is going on?
Actually, my introduction to it was the Sears catalog. I was flipping through the NES section and I saw a picture there and I was like, Legend of Zelda. And I was like, that looks interesting.
Yeah.
I never actually had the game until much later, like second-hand copy. So I never even had the map. So maybe that's why I didn't get into it as much, because I didn't have the map. I didn't buy it originally.
That
so-
map just was so cool. I mean, it really got you interested in the world.
Yeah.
And I think I actually had bought Zelda 2 before Zelda 1, because like I rented Zelda 1 and started falling in love with it, but didn't ever buy it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I was at like some kind of a like Nintendo like show or whatever, where they had like vendors selling used Nintendo games or whatever. And I saw a copy of Zelda 2, and so I picked it up and bought it. And and they would have like a stack of instruction books, and so you kind of flip through and like, oh, okay, here's an instruction book. So I got like a loose Zelda 2 and instruction book for however much, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I actually had that first, and then got the original Zelda somewhere else down the way. But
I guess it was just like a case where it wasn't brand new for you at the time. You're like getting what's new at the time.
Yeah.
So maybe that's because Zelda.
well, yeah, because that was exactly it though. Because I remember I didn't really have a clue like what Zelda 2 was like. I didn't know it was like a side scroller game like it was.
Yeah. What a
and,
shock.
So different.
Yeah, it was so different. But back then you didn't really have.
You just took what you got.
You took
Yeah.
what you got, and
Yeah.
I stuck with it, and I played through it, and I beat that game.
It's a fun game on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's completely different though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was really happy when they went back to the traditional style with Link to the Past.
Definitely. Yeah.
But I can appreciate the RPG elements of it and things. It's still a fun game to play. So yeah, Legend of Zelda, the original,
And
sitting right
had
there.
like all those little kind of cryptic hints, like Eastmost Peninsula holds the secret. Those classic stuff.
It's the first game where like I started jotting stuff down on the side.
Yeah.
I never had done that in a video game before. Like you're like, this seems like it's important. I should probably jot this down. I started doing that because of games like Zelda.
Yeah.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Castlevania 1 and then Castlevania 2, where Castlevania 1 was really good, and then Castlevania 2,
Yeah.
Belmont.
Well, let's try
that
to
it
do
went to
something
like
different.
a role-playing
Yeah.
type of approach, and with Zelda, the second one, I mean, obviously they're both role-playing, but they went more heavy with it, side-scrolling.
Give Nintendo
So-
credit; they self-corrected pretty fast on a lot of their franchises.
Yeah.
And again, like Castlevania 2, fun on its own.
Sure.
Now that you know that they went with the original style, like now that you can appreciate that game because you got more games like you like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do have that little
Yeah.
gem,
It is interesting that there were like the sequel would be like so completely different.
like Mario
than-
2.
So-
Yeah.
Well, but that's what exactly I was going to say. Only in reverse though. The Japanese version, Super Mario 2, was just Super Mario Bros. 1.5.
Yeah, it really
Yeah.
was.
It was just.
There were no like advancements.
It was just
technically.
Super Mario Brothers 1 regurgitated, but with
Right.
a couple new things and just really hard.
Yeah.
Yep, that's true.
Yep.
Cool. All right, so what's next on our list, boys?
All right, so
We're getting into the real classics here.
So tying at number 4, Mega Man 2 for the NES and Donkey Kong Country for the Super NES. They got 11 points each.
Let's talk about Donkey Kong Country.
My all-time favorite, Donkey Kong Country.
Revolutionary.
Absolutely revolutionary.
Your number one?
My number one.
Boy.
And I remember getting from Nintendo the VHS tape. I still have it.
So did
watching
I.
that thing over and over again. I mean, that was just. I mean, Treehouse.
Except I didn't watch it over and over again. I watched it one time. But I still have the tape.
Yeah, Nick's
Well, I was sold, completely sold on it.
Yeah, I would remember though being amazed.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna step away now.
Yeah. Get out of here.
Not on my list, by the way, at all.
I'm shocked. I mean, did you play it back
I bought
in the
it.
day?
I had it.
You did
Yeah,
buy
yeah.
it?
Seeing that you just weren't like blown away. The Super Nintendo can do this.
Oh, I know,
graphics?
right?
Yeah, I was,
I mean-
but I think I was into the Sega CD or something into that by that point. Or I don't know, like it was
okay.
really good, and I was amazed by what they were able to pull off with the technology.
And it was very late in the Nintendo life cycle, right? So
was.
a lot of people were kind of moving
Yeah.
on, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but I bought it, and I was one of the many people that bought the game.
Yeah.
And you know, like but the game to me like felt kind of stiff. I don't know, like it's a fun game. It's just I don't have that nostalgia for it at all.
Yeah.
But you know, for you guys, I mean,
it definitely wasn't as fluid as, say, Super Mario World.
yeah.
Now,
Right. I mean, it was a little bit, since you were playing as Donkey Kong, it was a little bit tough, some of the movements, right?
I will admit, and I think I mentioned this maybe in another episode, that like the Mega Man X series, I loved the first one, and then I didn't really play the others.
Yeah.
Now, with the Donkey Kong Country series, maybe a lot of that has to do with you don't play as Donkey Kong in the others. He
Yeah.
ends up being like the one you need to save, and they kept like introducing new characters, and I wanted Donkey Kong.
Right.
I think that's a big part for those.
And
I've
Diddy was in
heard-
the first one, though, wasn't he?
He wasn't. Yeah, it was Donkey and Diddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
but
then
it
the
was like the
second one was
grandpa and
Diddy
the girl.
and Dixie.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the third one was Dixie and like some like baby monkey. That it was really by that time I was like, yeah, I don't care about this anymore.
Moving on.
Yeah, because you don't. Then the third one, you don't even have Diddy Kong anymore. You
Yeah.
know, at least
Now, I really enjoy some of the newer incarnations of the Donkey Kong series, like Tropical Freeze.
Definitely,
for me, is
yeah.
a really fun
They've done a
game.
great job with that.
Yeah, and those games feel a little bit tighter, and you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, they've obviously had a lot of time to perfect.
But I loved how they brought back like that era of mystery where there's like these secret, hidden
definitely,
bonus
yeah.
rooms all over the place, and and you collect all the
balloons.
letters and the balloons
Yeah.
and everything. And
I like that they brought Donkey Kong back because Donkey Kong
Yeah,
was dormant
yeah,
for a long
yes.
time.
Yeah.
And that was, I love the intro sequence where it's like the girders like from the original Donkey Kong, and it's playing like
Oh,
the
yeah.
music.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah.
cool. And they kind of acted like the Cranky Kong was like the original Donkey Kong, like from back in the day.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a good job.
And I guess Donkey Kong, like the one with the tie, he's actually Junior. I guess it's
Yeah,
kind of what
I
they
guess so.
alluded to. I think. So that's cool.
Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about that?
The other thing I really like is they took from Super Mario World the overworld map,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, you could see where you're going, and it's so much detail.
And it had cool music too.
Yeah,
Like,
It did.
And there were alternate routes
very,
that
very
you could go
like
to.
jungle themed, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's a really good game. I just like I said, I just don't have the nostalgia feels for it nearly as much. I don't feel like it's one of those games that's as playable now as some of these other games on our list. But that's just me.
I don't know. I disagree. I think it's still really playable, and it even one of the other things too is the characters that you could ride, like the rhino,
Yeah.
the ostrich.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of borrowed from Super Mario World with
minecart
Yoshi.
sequences were cool.
The minecart sequences were some of the more difficult ones, but super awesome.
Yeah.
So special effects, music, the gameplay. I mean, it's definitely top of my list.
It's well, on the strength of your number one, it's right there smack in the middle, and it's in your top 10 too, right, Nick?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but we'll talk about the other game, Mega Man 2.
Mega Man 2. That I think is my absolute favorite Mega Man game.
It's a lot of people's, and it usually boils down to Mega Man 2 or 3, I think, for most people.
Yeah.
But I don't think Mega Man 3 was on the NES Classic.
3 was the first one to have Rush.
Yeah, and the slide mechanic was big.
Yeah.
So I understand why many people like 3, because it's basically 2 plus some other cool stuff.
4, I think, was the first to have the charge shot, like where you hold the button down.
Yeah, that's pretty big deal.
I don't really know why 2 is my favorite, but 2 is my favorite.
I think it's just the most memorable bosses, the most memorable music. We have nostalgia plays a large factor into it for sure.
I know I was introduced to the series with 2, and just like other games we've already talked about, when I fell in love with it, then I went back to the roots and I tried out 1, and 1 was like super, super hard.
Yeah.
But I still went through it and I ended up beating it.
Can we talk about that goofy box art for a second?
Oh,
my gosh.
No, we cannot.
Oh, come on. It's so
bad.
It's like a guy in some like long johns or something.
Yeah.
And really, I don't know Mega Man game has good box art. Really, they're all bad. But
almost
not
became like
as
a
bad
tradition.
as 1.
Yeah.
One though is definitely the worst.
Who can we put in charge of this ugly box art this time?
Yeah.
It's really funny that it's such a thing that when they came out with like 9 and 10, that where like you had talked about. It's on new systems, but they went back to like NES style.
Yeah.
That they even purposefully made like terrible looking art for it.
I'm so glad they did.
People were looking for that horrible box art, right?
It's funny that they did that because it's just such a staple with Mega Man. They just.
I want to say now it's hard for me to remember if I was introduced to Mega Man through the Captain N cartoon.
Very different.
Very different.
And he's
character.
green. He's not even
Yeah.
blue.
Yeah,
the
what was
weird.
up with that?
But I mean,
The
like
blue
that's
bomber,
where I
but
knew
they're
Mega
gonna make
Man.
him green.
Well, and I don't know. just a little side thought. Like, which came first for me? Was it the cartoon? They was like, oh, well, he's obviously a very seminal, important character to the Nintendo ethos. I'm gonna play some Mega Man. But my brother was working at a video store at the time, and he brought 2 home. And I was in with you. And it was like, man, I was just in love with the game. It was so awesome.
See, I rented the first one, and it was super hard.
Super hard.
And actually, after that, I was like, yeah, I'm not a Mega Man fan.
Not on
So
your list, right?
It was not on my list because of that.
Ooh. Oh,
So,
gosh.
sorry.
I'm glad I didn't never play 1 until later on.
Yeah, you would be forgiven for like swearing off Mega Man.
Yeah.
And which is why I swore off Metroid for a little while because I just didn't really care.
Yeah,
for
so
I
it.
don't
point
know
of
which board you picked first, but I think I picked the Gutsman stage first. And right at the very beginning of the board, it's got those things that go back and forth
Oh, it's
on
so
the
hard.
rail, and there are those spots where like it'll just drop out from under you. And so you're riding this thing across, and it just drops you down, and it's so hard.
Yeah, they made
brutal.
some improvements
Brutal.
with the second one for sure. Cool. 2 classic games for sure for the classic list right there, and we're really getting to the top of the heap now.
Yeah. All right, so you ready for number 3 then?
Number
Let's bring
3.
it on.
All right, number 3, 20 points. Now, this is the difference because the other one was 11 points. Now, these are 20 points.
Big jump.
So,
up.
big jump.
Yeah.
So tying at number 3, 20 points each, is Super Mario Brothers, the original on NES, and Super Mario World on Super NES. So,
Let's talk about the original Super Mario Brothers.
Well, interesting is they're both pack-in games, right?
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Good point. And right there at number 3 for both of us.
yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 1 for me. I mean, for a lot of people, it was what made you become interested in the NES to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, it was, aside from the Atari 2600, I mean, that was really what got me into video games. I mean, it was that game.
Well, and it was like arcade perfection, too. Because Super Mario Brothers was in the arcades versus Super
The Versus
Mario Brothers.
system, yeah.
And
Famously discovered by your brother at a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never seen it in
I've
the
told that
arcades.
story before.
Yeah, that's a good story.
Yeah.
But yeah, but you know the interesting thing I just read recently that I didn't realize, but I think it's true from just my memories of versus Super Mario Brothers, because I remember later on, because there are differences between versus Super Mario Brothers and the NES
Yeah,
version of
there's
Super
some
Mario
differences.
Brothers, and from what I've heard is that because it starts getting a lot harder. And there are aspects, I think, from the Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers 2 that are in versus Super Mario Brothers. That some of these boards, like, it just starts borrowing some of these hard boards from the Japanese Super Mario 2. And I can't think of like exactly which boards they are. I think it starts like around World 5 and like 7 and stuff. Because you remember in like the Lost Levels, Japanese Mario 2, where there's like the wind blowing, and you do like you jump on the trampolines, and there are like these really high jumps, and there's wind blowing, and you just like jump like a mile. It feels like. Yeah, I feel like there was stuff like that in versus Super Mario Brothers that aren't in the NES version. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the NES version. So.
Yeah.
That's okay. We get sidetracked from time to time.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that on the Switch. That is coming out for the Switch, right? Versus Super Mario Brothers. No.
It's just Mario.
But later down the road,
it will be. It's
yeah.
scheduled.
It is scheduled.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
It is
That's
coming.
great.
Yeah, the first one is the old school Mario.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Super Mario Brothers, the warp pipe. Remember how awesome it was? How cool it felt to find that for the first time?
Yeah.
It was one of those things you just kind of learn from your friends. Like, I don't know if I actually discovered that on my own. I think it was something I heard about.
Like when you realize, like when you're in World 1, 2, and you know you're jumping on bricks and collecting coins and whatever, and you hit and you break the bricks across the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
And you jump up there and you're like, hey, look at me, I'm running across the top. You know?
You're in the scoreboard.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, am I supposed to be able to do this?
Did I just break the game?
Yeah, it's so cool.
And so then you just keep doing it, and you find the warp zone.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
I found something so like they weren't. I wasn't supposed to find this. That's kind of how it felt.
Right. Yeah.
It's in that trick on the staircase to get all the lives.
Oh yeah.
An amazing thing to pull off. It was not easy to do.
Tough. Yeah.
It was not easy to do, but man, it felt awesome when you got it down.
Yeah.
And then what about the minus worlds?
Oh yeah, the minus worlds.
The small fiery Mario. Lots of
Yeah.
glitches in that game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what made it good though. Is like some of the glitches,
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Possibly the game we played the most.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
It came packed in with the NES so often. I mean,
Yeah.
then it would come with Duck Hunt, and then again with like Duck Hunt and Track and what was that track game that came with the power pad?
Track and field.
Was it called Track and Field?
Yeah.
But that game was relevant for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
And do you guys remember in like Nintendo Power how they would have their top 20s, you know, and like a lot of those classic games will stay at the top for a long time. Like was it Mario Brothers like at the number one
for so long.
Always, yeah.
Forever. And in the original Legend of Zelda too.
Man, I'm so mad at myself. I meant to bring this. Remember that black book that like the NES Atlas, or I forget what it was called. But I remember that, you know, it would be in all the stores, like Toys R Us or whatever, and they'd have it like chained to like the wall or something. You can just like flip through it. And it
you
would
have
have
one?
like all the mess. I have one.
Oh, wow.
I got it on eBay.
Oh,
and,
nice.
yeah, because I had to have that book, and I finally found like a decent one.
Is it
for
in the
like
museum?
a decent price. It's in the museum, and I totally
It's legendary here on the show.
I totally meant to bring it specifically for
Need
today.
to do a tour of the museum
And,
if you haven't already.
Well, he's got a lot of pictures up on our Facebook page already. Go to Facebook, the BitGeeks. Check it out. There's all kinds of neat stuff on there from Nick's museum.
Yeah, I totally meant to bring that because it's so relevant to everything we're talking about. But
Take a picture
I
of it,
remember
throw it
like
up.
for
I mean,
Super
seriously.
Mario Bros. Like I mean that's I would just stare there. I mean stand there in like Toys R Us and just stare for like I don't know how long, but it just. You know, just all this information, and that's how I learned like the names, like Little Goomba and Koopa Troopa. You know, and so I learned all the names of all the enemies just from like this book and looking at all the
It's
maps.
like an encyclopedia for Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
I love that book.
What other games were in there, by the way?
Oh, there was Zelda and Metroid and just
Karate.
every one of those old Nintendo.
The black
games.
box games.
Kung Fu was in there?
Yeah, Kung Fu.
Yeah.
I had a friend who had that.
I love that book.
It was pretty cool.
I actually have 2 copies of that book. Because one copy
Selling one?
yeah.
well, one copy ended up having like the first page of Super Mario Brothers ripped out, which was like the most important thing to me in
Who
that
would
bop.
do that? Well, stupid kids. We would do
Yeah.
They stole it. Somebody stole it, I bet.
So then I probably like
Yeah.
when it was in Toys R Us or whatever.
that. Keeping this for me.
Fold it up.
So then I ended up having to look again because that page is like why I want the book, you know. So
That music, man. It's on like people's cell
Oh
phones.
my
and
gosh,
things
it's
to
in
this
my
day.
brain.
Yeah, I hum it constantly all the time. Like even my 6-year-old knows that song. Yep. And then you go down to the underworld.
Oh yeah.
It's just like,
Remember the first time you went to the underworld? You're like, what is this?
Yeah, 'cause
it's the basement.
it's crazy, yeah, because like you're not even controlling Mario. He's just like going to the pipe, and then you go.
Oh
down.
yeah, like
Yeah,
cutscenes,
yeah.
right?
yeah,
You
it's
know?
like a cutscene.
And then the fireworks. You're like, what is this about?
Right, and the flag you pull.
Oh,
It's just a
yeah.
neat little thing to like make sure you got up at the top of the flagpole
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
Just really difficult, challenging game. I remember the first time like being introduced in one of those levels in the castles where you kind of had to do a certain sequence to get past.
oh yeah,
Oh, those
World
are frustrating.
4-4.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it does it again in World 8 too.
Yeah, it does.
I could go on and on all day about it. We could
Oh,
just
yeah.
go through each level and talk
Man, the
about
Hammer
each.
Brothers.
Oh my gosh, the
Oh,
Hammer
man.
Brothers.
Block
are so
it
Hated
too.
those.
Lock
Oh
it
my
too, that
gosh.
punk. You know and it's we haven't even talked about Super Mario World. Super Mario World, which is technically so much better than all of those games.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's I think 2 on my list, 2 or 3. I don't know. It's definitely way up there.
It's 2 on mine. It's 2 on yours.
It's 9 on mine.
and it's way down there on Martin's.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it possibly could
It
have
was
been
a good game, but you know.
Yeah, it was a great game, and and I played that game a whole lot, but not as much as Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
You know,
So maybe it should have been. A
You know,
reverse.
and I ranked it higher on mine, but on mine, Super Mario World is 2 and Super Mario Brothers is 3, because I had a really hard time about that, and finally I decided, well, Super Mario Brothers, I love it so much, but the other Mario games are superior. I mean,
They are, but like
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers is still so very playable.
It is,
Yeah.
You know, I'll still play that on a virtual console.
and honestly, they all are.
Yeah. Yeah.
True. It's not that Super Mario World is replayable. It's very, very replayable.
Oh, definitely.
It's on my 3DS, you know.
But-
I it's one of those games I buy almost every time.
Yeah.
Super Mario World, yeah, I love how it introduced like so many new techniques, like
Yoshi.
Yeah.
Yoshi.
I was just
but
thinking about that.
Mario 3 introduced picking up the shell, but then in Mario World you can kick the shell straight up, and you know you can do other
Yep.
things. The spin jump, the cape,
The cape.
which
Oh,
my
yeah.
first thought of the cape was like, well, but you already had the raccoon tail
Right.
that you spun and you fly. It does the same things. Well,
It's so
but the
much
cape,
more
But
dynamic.
you've got that
could do the little
stomp too.
parachute thing. It
Yeah.
could dive
Yeah.
bomb.
You could just float, but then you could also really get going with it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you got really good with it, and I think there are certain levels where you have to get really good with it to advance.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
especially
cape
to
is fun.
find some of the
Yeah,
secret
Yeah, some of the
locations.
secret
Yeah.
stuff, like you've got to kind of like dive bomb and then pull up so
Oh,
that you'll
yeah.
come like under this wall or something.
And where Super Mario Brothers was very much like just beat the levels, Super Mario World really kind of rewarded like replayability, a lot.
Exploration.
Yeah.
exploration, finding the
find the second like exit or whatever. Take the key to the keyhole.
exactly.
And then those lava levels with the raft.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those were awesome.
The
Very
dragon
very
thing, the
Super
blarg
Mario
that
Brothers.
Oh yeah.
jumps out.
And then the music and sound effects in that
Oh
game.
yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
The music is just. I think that might be my favorite. It is nostalgic as I feel for the first Super Mario Brothers song, and I just got done saying how great it was. The Super Mario World music to me was the best.
Hey, you know, you were talking about in Super Mario 2 not using some of these other enemies, but really they have kind of used a few of them. Not Clog Grip, not you
Yeah,
know,
the assets don't get reused quite
Triclide,
as
not
big.
Mouser. Whatever happened to Reznor?
Oh God, I don't know.
He's like the dinosaur that's on the little wheel.
And that,
Oh,
that
yeah.
felt like something out of a Bonk game too.
That
I
was
always
strange,
thought.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it didn't really match.
Well, the whole thing, it's like Dinosaur Land. The whole theme is Dinosaur Land,
Yeah.
right? Which it's, I guess Yoshi was in Dinosaur Land. I guess
I
Yoshi
guess.
is a dinosaur
I always
in a
forget
way.
that Yoshi's
Yeah.
a dinosaur.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's kind of strange to think about.
Yeah, because they went on like with the Yoshi games that now it's Yoshi Island, but I think it was called Dinosaur Land in,
Yeah.
You're right, it
in
was.
Mario
Yeah.
World. Yeah.
Yeah.
cool. All right, guys, move on to number 2.
So number two, the 22 points. Number 2, The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past.
My number
On
one.
the Super NES.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that ranked down about midway for me, just because Mario games
I know.
Oh yeah.
were at the top.
Yeah, that's not my number 6.
But
For me, like for Mario, the original Zelda game for you kind of opened your eyes. Like the Super Nintendo version for me really opened my eyes.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I talked about it at length in our previous episode where we did our top 10, like favorites or whatever.
Just the atmosphere.
Yeah, starting out with the rain,
Yeah.
and you gotta get all your stuff. Like you don't have anything at first. You get you get your sword. You've only got the 3 hearts, and the next thing you know, you're building up.
Yeah.
You gotta, and there's certain parts that you can't get to until you get other weapons.
Yeah. And it was this one introduced like those like different tiers, like the different levels, like in some of the dungeons and whatnot.
Oh god, I love those. Dungeons are so good in the Link to the Past.
Very
They're
good.
So good. Another game that I got on my virtual console, like every one of them.
Yeah.
In fact, when Breath of the Wild was coming out, like I couldn't wait. I had to have a Zelda fix. I went ahead and bought it for 3DS, replayed it.
Nice. Yeah.
It's still so fun. I think the
It's
dashing
amazing.
effect is introduced in the
The Pegasus boots.
Yeah.
Martin, Nick and I have kind of already talked about Link to the Past a bit. When you think of Link to the Past, what do you think about?
It's definitely the atmosphere. Just for me, it's one of the first RPGs that I really got into. You don't really think of it as a role-playing game, but it's like really accessible role-playing game.
Yeah,
you're
managing inventory.
Yeah, you're managing inventory. You don't really necessarily have the stats like a Final Fantasy game.
It's
but
not like that. It's your turn to hit. Now
It's an
the
action
enemy's
RPG.
turn to
Yeah,
hit.
an action
Yeah,
RPG,
yeah.
right? And I think that's why it's so popular. Like anybody could really get into it, right?
It is super
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah, because I never really liked those Final Fantasy like role playing games where it's just
Yeah,
like
turn-based.
the turn based. You're like looking at the guys on the screen. You hit a button and they're like, That's like,
Yeah.
He didn't even hit. Walk up to.
I
him and
didn't
hit
even
him.
do that.
He stepped forward and went. I didn't get into those at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Zelda.
Yeah. I think the free roam, aspect where you can just explore, go wherever you want.
You pretty much could go wherever you want.
Yeah,
to go.
I think that's what made it really unique, especially on the Super Nintendo, right? I can't remember too many other games that let you really do that.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
definitely awesome.
All right, so that's
Definitely
was that
one of my
tied for
favorites.
anything, or was that all by itself?
That was all by itself. Number 2.
All right. Should we get right to number 1?
All by itself. Number 1, 27 points. Can anybody guess?
Martin.
Super Mario Brothers 3.
You
I
are
was gonna
correct.
guess Bubble Bobble.
Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers 3.
So-
I'm actually kind of glad that it's number 1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that ranked our number
Mario. Mario.
The world like starts paint up
Classic.
and
Oh
then Mario
yeah.
head.
Yep.
Yeah.
For me, Super Mario Brothers 3, the levels, I guess, like the themed worlds. Like I think of that giant land is one of my all-time favorite like areas in a Super Mario 3 game. I think I beat Mario 3 more than I've beaten any other game. I'll say that too.
Yeah.
Like, I've
Yeah.
beaten that game so many times. I love those airship boards
Oh,
so
yeah, those are
much.
awesome.
Did you draw those out? the other
Yeah,
games?
I think my mapping days were more like
They floated up and down too. It would have
It
been
made
kind
it
of hard.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It-
true.
I-
Yeah.
I know for sure I did Mario 1 and Mario 2. I didn't map so much Mario 3. I think there was also a book that came out like shortly after it was released, and there's little need to.
Yeah.
But
I like the kids. I like how they had.
I love the
Oh
Koopalings.
yeah, that is cool.
yeah, I love the Koopalings, and I was sad that like for so long, because they were in Mario World, and then for so long they were gone,
Yeah.
and then like Bowser Jr. was introduced, and it was like, well, what happened to the Koopa kids?
Yeah, a bit of trivia. Can you guys name the game that Bowser Jr. was introduced? Which Mario game?
Sunshine.
It was Sunshine. Okay.
Oh wow.
I didn't guess that. I was thinking Mario 3 for some reason in my head.
Huh.
No, Sunshine.
I know it's Sunshine. I know the answer to the trivia question, but like you popped right in and answered it. I don't know why. I feel like Bowser Jr. is a much older character than what he actually
Yeah,
was.
it seems like he would be.
But yeah, the Koopa kids are awesome. Martin, what do you think about when you think about Super Mario 3?
And I guess I correct myself earlier. Super Mario 2 wasn't the only one with mini games, right? Mario 3 had the
the
matching
treasure
game.
box.
Yeah,
Yeah,
matching game.
Flip the card.
Well, 2 did it
Yeah.
first.
2 did it first, right?
Yeah, like the little sliding things.
Yeah.
To match up like the mushroom face and whatever.
Yeah, and then it had multiple avenues on the world map, which
I
kind of
liked, too,
added
how,
to the
like,
real
when you,
map.
at the end of
real
each
play.
level, you'd hit the thing, and like you could also get rewards too if you got.
Oh yeah, the matching cards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was neat. Sorry.
Go
ahead.
for the stars.
Go for the
Yeah,
stars. Try to
yeah.
hit the corners.
Definitely. Yeah. 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 Just awesome game.
Yeah.
Definitely replay value is up there.
Off the charts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people will say like the Wizard, you know, the movie The Wizard, because he kind of introduced it. But for me, it's seeing it for the first time in the arcade on that Play Choice 10, like at the fairgrounds, when you know they would have like the arcade at the fairgrounds, and like one year it's like there it was, and it had like those little mini marquees, Super Mario, like new game, Super Mario Brothers, and it had like
That
Mario
used to be
with
a
his
big deal.
raccoon
Yeah.
tail, and I love the whole imagery of Mario's raccoon tail. I don't,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why, but Tanuki
Yeah,
Mario.
there it is.
But-
The Tanuki was a fun character. That's another thing too. Is all the suits were introduced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There was a
that
frog.
Hammer Brothers suit was
Hammer Brothers.
so cool.
Yeah.
Like so rare, so cool.
Uh-huh.
That was like always like the ultimate goal was to beat the game with the Hammer Brothers.
I like
suit.
how in Odyssey they seem to be kind of going back to some of the like you can be in those suits now.
Yeah.
Sort of obtain the powers of some of the other enemies.
Yeah.
Well, and they've been doing that in some of the other games that have been recently released too. Like I can't think of the names of them.
Like Super Mario World 3D could be a
the
cat.
new Super Mario.
Mario
Well,
Cat.
Just
the
what
game.
you wanted to be, right?
Yeah.
No, I don't mean the
Why
cat
not?
though. Like one, it was like there was like a penguin or the blue shell. You could get like the blue shell, and because you could have different. You could slide around with that, and I don't know. I don't play those ones as much. I can't think of those.
Remember riding around in that boot?
Oh, I like the boot. Yeah. That,
Karibo's boot, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, I remember
don't
that
know.
board that had all the different piranha plants at the bottom, and you had to like
yeah.
you were, I guess, invincible
Yeah.
to those.
you remember the micro Goombas that would like get on you? And you
Yes,
have to jump
yes.
around? Yeah.
Those are great. You had to
So
shake 'em off.
annoying. Yeah.
Yeah, they were annoying.
That game had a number of like really rare items that is only on like one or two boards, and you can't even find it anywhere else. Like that boot was only the one board.
Yeah, it was just
Yeah.
used for like one thing.
Yeah, the Hammer Brothers suit. I mean, it was in a couple places, but it was rare.
It was rare. It was really cool, and you hated it when you lost it.
Yeah.
Oh man, the Tanuki was neat how he turned into a statue.
Oh, yeah, that was neat,
Enemies
yeah.
would walk.
They
right
should bring
by
that
you.
back.
They should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like the Tanuki suit was in like the one on the 3DS, like Mario 3D Land, I think, or was that just the? Because one of them, he was wearing the suit, but he didn't actually turn into the statue. Like, was the power of the Tanuki suit? That was like the difference with it. Between
Yeah, I don't think
just
you
the
could turn
raccoon
into
tail.
the statue. No.
I don't know, but I always race with the Mario Tanuki and Mario Kart 8. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like one of my.
Yeah.
I picked that and Bowser Jr. almost always.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's classic.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
be remiss to not mention at least the box for Super Mario 3.
Oh.
I love that. That's so iconic. It's just yellow.
Yep.
And just Mario flying. Very iconic box.
It's a piece of art, man.
Oh yeah.
It is.
It's I want to find a nice print of that. So, and I've talked about doing like the shadow box thing, like finding a copy on eBay and displaying it.
Oh yeah.
But now I'm just like, I just want to get like a poster of the image of the box. Really, it's all I
Oh
really
yeah.
want.
It's so classic. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing those for the first time in the stores. It might have been Walmart for me too.
I got mine from Walmart. I was
Yeah.
so hyped. I saw the commercial, and then the Wizard. You saw the gameplay, and it's like I've got to get this.
I'm pretty
game.
sure the Wizard is where I saw it first.
Yeah.
And a lot of us were introduced to Mario 3 because of the Wizard.
Yeah.
I remember being just so impressed too that just how much cleaner like the graphics look compared to like the original Super Mario Brothers 1. 'Cause
Oh, yeah.
it's on the same hardware.
The same system. Yeah.
Same system.
But
Yeah.
it's just it looks so much cleaner, and just with the black outlines, the sprites a lot more cartoony looking.
Those like hills, like I just
Which
think of,
Yeah.
which to be fair,
You could slide down them.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Which,
Oh,
to be
yeah.
fair, a good portion of the sprite is kind of borrowed from what they had done in Mario 2, but then just, even improved upon it.
yeah, they
even more.
refined it a bit.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, like, I give props to 2 quite a bit because it took that first step into that look of Mario that we're so used to him being right now.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Super Mario Brothers, he was just like the pixely looking character.
Right.
There was depth to him. It felt like in 3.
Yeah, like
definitely.
more frames of animation, like when just walking, and he was just kind of.
He kind of like took on that like portliness to him a little bit too.
He did, yeah. He struggled a little bit.
Yeah, he was sweating a bit.
Yeah.
The animation seemed a lot smoother than like on Super Mario 1.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
So it wasn't my number one. Whose number one was it? Was it anyone's, or was it just ranked
was
so
mine.
highly on? It was your number
It was
one.
my number 2.
My
Your
number 1.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I believe it was my 3, maybe. I don't know. But like I said, I'm really kind of glad, even though it's like not 1 or 2 on my list. I'm kind of glad that it's number 1. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Because nothing really. When I think of the NES, it's Super Mario 3 is a game that like I would never dream of parting with. Like I know I have it somewhere in here.
Yeah.
But it's a really close to a perfect game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks really good
Yeah.
on there too.
It's a tad bit fast though. You'll
the
notice.
music's kind of a little quick.
Yeah.
The tempo is
Sped
up a little bit.
It's sped up just a little bit.
It's Super Mario Brothers 3 Turbo.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, so that's our 10 list. Our top 10 NES Classics list. I'm pretty happy with the list.
Yeah.
I think it's a good one. We kind of like differed a little bit towards the bottom of the list, but I mean, even though we can all agree those are really good games, even if they didn't make our personal list.
Definitely.
But So Martin, thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks for showing off your new toys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
And it'll be nice maybe to have you on again someday. If
Yeah,
cool with
I've
that.
definitely got some other stuff I could bring on the show.
More show and tell.
Yeah, definitely.
It's nice because I mean, over the years we've changed. I've been Sega fan, I've been TurboGrafx fan, I've been PlayStation fan, but Nintendo to me is where my heart is. It's like Disney World. I don't know what it is. It's just something. It's like Apple. There's just a quality to Nintendo.
Yep.
And
which it's sad because when I read stuff on the internet now and everybody bashes on Nintendo so much about just making kids games, that they're known for the kids games and because
what's so wrong with having a game?
I don't know. They make good games.
I love their games.
And
I'm sort of glad they're like that.
It just seems like that
I can actually play their systems with my kids.
Yeah.
Logan loves Nintendo. That he's gonna be a Nintendo adult someday.
Yeah, and that's great, right?
Yep.
There's always got to be just like you like this group and you bash this group. And I like this. I like that. I like this.
I think for some people, people are hard on Nintendo because of how iconic they were to all of us as kids.
Yeah.
I read something the other day that was so interesting. The average age of a gamer is 35 years old. I would have imagined it would have been younger since we're taking averages, but it's 35. So a lot of gamers, and speaking of course from our age bracket,
I think that number has kind of like moved with us, a bit.
Yeah, we're definitely tipping that scale up.
Yeah.
In the 80s, average age of the gamer would have been far
younger. Yeah, it would have been teenage years.
It's kind of increased as we grow up, I think.
But the point I guess I'm trying to make is we're all adults and we're really hard on the things we have high expectations for Nintendo. So when
we grew up with it, right?
Yeah. Well, when they do things to frustrate us as fans, we're really hard. Some people are harder than others. I don't trash them. I try to just accept what they give me and enjoy it.
Like the whole thing with the NES Classic. I mean, I'm super frustrated about that. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
Yeah, like, don't you want more money, Nintendo?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah, it wasn't really fair to the fans.
I hope you guys are able to get one when they re-release them in 2018.
I better.
Let's hope they start making a bunch of them so that anyone can get them.
Well, there's definitely a lot of Chinese clones out there that if I can't get it, I'm going to be getting that or one of the Pi systems. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, get a Pi and a NES Classic.
That's true.
I mean, the Pis are so nifty for lots of reasons. But yeah, and like Nintendo, I mean, like I say again, I really love Nintendo, and it'd be neat to have like another like hardcore Nintendo fan, somebody who bought the Virtual Boy. They make people like you.
All right, I'm gonna have to demo it on the next episode.
Oh my gosh, that would be so awesome.
I'm gonna bring it in, and we're gonna take a look at it and let you guys try it.
We're gonna make all of your eyes bleed.
That's right.
Next time Martin comes along,
we'll do the golden eye with the red.
Oh, yeah.
007.
Oh, well, do you guys think they'll do an N64 Classic? I mean, is that pushing it a little too hard now?
I don't think we'll see GoldenEye on it because of all the licensing
No,
issues.
I agree.
But, yeah.
I agree. Because of the Bond thing.
Yeah.
But, and Rare. Rare is like owned by Microsoft now.
Yeah.
But do you think we'll see it? Because, I mean, they can be emulated fairly easily, cheaply now, I think.
I don't know.
Is there enough games to want a collection?
There's definitely enough games, but, I'm really shocked that Nintendo hasn't done anything with the Virtual Console on Switch yet.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's so frustrating.
Well,
and,
some people think it might have something to do with the classics.
And maybe it does, but I think they're two totally different audiences, right?
Well, we'll gobble them both up, too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no reason why you couldn't, right?
How many times did I say in this episode I've bought multiple instances of the same game?
Right. How many times have you bought Super Mario Brothers?
I own like Super Mario
at least.
Brothers, like everything it was released on, just about.
Yeah. So
except for maybe that
make that
really
money,
rare
Nintendo.
like
Just keep printing
PC
stuff and we'll
version of
buy it.
Super Mario Special.
3DS, Wii U.
Yeah, like anytime they put it on like some kind of virtual console, I bought it on that.
Did you guys like
Game Boy
that?
Advance?
Yeah, there was that Game Boy Advance version of Super Mario 3.
Yeah, Super Mario Advance 4, I think it was Super Mario 3.
Yeah.
I didn't have
That's
that,
not
but
confusing,
it looked really
right?
cool. You were able to play with other characters in that, basically, right?
Upgraded visuals on it, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting that there's no Super Mario All Stars.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised they didn't do that because it's got everything in there. The lost levels.
Yeah.
I mean that's the cart to own.
Oh God, I almost
right?
forgot. We got to do our before I sign off. We got to do our what games did we put in the list?
So what game, Ron, did you want to replace on either the Super NES Classic or
Did you write
NES
down which
Classic?
game I was gonna bump out?
Did what you forgot? You need the cheat.
I need the cheat. Now, I know the game. DuckTales is the game I would put in.
What you told me was that you would replace Star Tropics.
Star Tropics, right? See,
You would
totally
replace Star
forgettable
Tropics
game.
with
Yeah, Star
DuckTales.
Tropics is one of those games I remember. I was aware of it, but I just didn't care because it was like an RPG stuff.
I remember, I never really played it either, but I remember they were making a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Like
They were pushing it hard.
they were pushing it.
But DuckTales is one of my 5 favorite games from when we did our NES show. It's another one of those awesome Capcom games with beautiful music, memorable levels.
Yeah.
And I love that pogo mechanic with Scrooge.
It was a hard game, though.
It was,
Really
but
hard.
I beat it a lot. I mean, it's one of those games that I got to know frontwards and backwards.
Yeah. It's one of those, there's so many games that are like that where if you don't really understand the mechanics of the game, you die so quick. It's so hard.
Oh yeah.
When you start to kind of understand it, then okay, and then you can get into it.
Yeah.
And
DuckTales
and now
is definitely one of those.
nowadays too, like if you buy a game and it frustrates you just a little bit, we buy another game and it's off on it's forgotten.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
Back then when we were younger, you got a game, you had to
stuck
stick with it.
Yeah, we mentioned that before.
Well, and they
You
were
just-
also
you played with
challenging,
what
right?
you had.
Yeah.
You were used to that, right?
Yeah.
Well, it was a quality game too. I mean, that has to speak for something. I mean, it's got to count for something. I mean, being a really fun game. I mean, I was having fun. I was dying a lot, but I was having fun.
Yeah.
And I loved the show.
Oh my God, the cartoon was fantastic.
Yeah, the cartoon was super classic.
Yeah.
Martin, which game would you include and then take out?
So the game I decided to take out was Contra 3.
Man, I think that's a classic.
I would replace.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I would replace it with Act Razor for the Super Nintendo.
You're on your own there. Buddy.
I mean, have you guys played it?
No.
no.
I mean,
I haven't.
The game was so unique.
I've heard
right?
the name, but I know nothing about the game. I can't.
It was like action, but it was also
It was overworld kind of like strategy game where you were a god who came down to destroy the demons, and it was an action side scroller, and it was just so unique for the time.
Yeah,
and the
I know.
visual effects, it had the rotation. It's just
Mode 7.
Mode 7. I mean, and a lot of these games on the list had Mode
especially
7.
Super Mario.
But yeah, it was just unique side scroller.
Cool.
It's a cult game.
It's definitely a cult game.
You hear that term a lot in movies, but it has a following for
Yeah.
sure.
And now the sequel, I can't recommend the sequel, but the original ActRaiser definitely was very good.
Why not the sequel? Was it? Did it veer off, or was
They
it
didn't
just...
have the overworld map, and they just had the side scroller, and it was just an action game. So
people
it was
probably
really generic
complain
in a
about
way.
the overworld stuff, and they just try to make it just.
I'm not sure. I mean, that's what really made it exciting.
Yeah, it sounds
So,
unique.
yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah. I'm sorry I can't speak too much to ActRaiser, but I do
Yeah.
recognize that it was a game that a lot of people would put in their top 10, I think.
Yeah.
Nick?
All right. Well, it'd probably be no surprise to anyone that I would take out Tecmo Bowl.
Oh, man. It hurts my heart. It hurts me.
I'm sorry.
I know, but it's a football game.
You know, I was like
You
looking
gotta have a
down.
sports title in there, though.
I'm looking down the list, and I'm like, well, I mean, every one of these games is a classic, but I don't care about Tecmo Bowl.
Fair enough.
So I would take out Tecmo Bowl, and I would put in the Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers 2, which, you know, you call it Lost Levels if you must.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like it should be there.
Well, we were robbed of that game.
Yeah. And I actually agree with you, because if you think about what they did with the Super NES Classic, where they have Star Fox 2 unreleased,
Yeah.
you know, it was never released anywhere.
Yeah.
But at least Lost Levels, they could have brought it, right?
could,
and
yeah.
they
And they did, eventually. But
maybe
Well, but-
if we say it enough, they'll actually include it with the re-release of the NES Classic.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because I have played the actual like Super Famicom version of it by other means many times, but has it ever been released not with like the updated Super Mario All-Star sprites
I don't think so.
in the States? So has it
Was
ever?
it on the Wii?
Yeah, I think it was.
Okay.
okay.
I think
I'm
it
not
was.
sure, but it may have been on the Wii, the original one.
I think it was on the Wii
Yeah.
as like the original sprites.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my question.
Yeah, but
is-
that's the only way then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
I guess I should mention, too, that I almost put a game on a list, but took it off because of one little fact that I didn't even realize, and it was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!
Oh,
Now it's
right,
called, like,
right.
Punch-Out featuring Mr. Dream or whatever.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I yanked it off my list because I wasn't even aware that was a thing, that they
Oh, yeah?
re-released the game.
I was so
yeah.
surprised you didn't know that. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
Are you being serious?
Well, and you were like kind of teasing me. It was like you're yanking the game because they didn't have like, they swapped characters. I'm like, well, yeah, because Mike Tyson was
Yeah.
like,
So
such
the
a
only
presence.
reason, the only reason you even had the game on there was the name Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
It was a fun game. It was really, really fun. I had a blast playing like all the like different like the Joe Glass and King the Hippo and Flamingo Kid, like they're all really memorable characters. But when you got to Mike Tyson, he was such an imposing figure.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it really was that extra that put the game over for me. When you
Yeah.
were like, well, and they replaced him. I'm like, well, yank it off my list then, I guess.
Yeah,
but I want to. It's respect to the game. It's a really fun game.
I remember when it was re-released, and I remember like seeing the new box like at Babbage's, and it was just like Punch Out. That was that was
screw
it.
that.
There was
Yeah.
no Mike Tyson's Punch Out anymore. It was
Oh,
just
yeah.
Punch Out.
And then, of course, we started making jokes like, I wonder what happened. Like, was that around the time they started beating Robin Givens?
Yeah.
I think too, it might have even had like the new kind of logo style that like the top loading Nintendo. How it kind of had that new kind of look. I think it had that new kind
wasn't
of
a fan of
bar
that.
across the top.
The
of
red
box.
bar.
Yeah,
something
you
like
had that
that.
red bar across the top, I think.
I wasn't a huge fan of that. So anyways, so we got that in. I've been really mad if I signed off and we didn't do
Yeah.
that. So, those are three worthy games. Tecmo Bowl, all right, whatever. For what you put in, I'm like, I'll allow it. I'm going to allow it. Anyways, thanks for watching the BitGeek podcast. For sure, check out our Facebook page. It's Facebook at the BitGeeks, or not at the BitGeeks, but the BitGeeks over at Facebook. Nick will hopefully treat us to some more
I'll
relics.
try to take some more pictures. Yeah.
Martin, do you have anything where we can find you on Twitter? What's your...
At Martin Reimer, MartinReimer.
Yeah, hit up for the 2 or 3 other people out there that bought a Virtual Boy. Why don't you hit up Martin and then you guys can commiserate.
Yeah.
But anyways, for this week, I've been Ron Avis.
I'm Nick Wright.
I'm Martin Reimer.
And thanks for watching. See you next time.